Duncan Green, How Change Happens. Embark on an insightful journey into the complex world of social activism with How Change Happens by Duncan Green. The book's summary delves deep into the inner workings of power, providing a renewed perspective on how to establish meaningful change that resonates within communities. Using the power and systems approach, this summary highlights key insights, providing you with practical tools and techniques to facilitate lasting change. Discover the roles of various power structures, international laws, governments, corporations, and leadership, along with the challenges and opportunities faced by activists. Learn the importance of feedback, adaptability, empathy, and trust in driving change, as well as the significance of grassroots initiatives stemming from the community.
Creating lasting change. In order to create successful community change, activists must understand power structures beyond politics and economics. Conducting a power analysis can help identify the key players in a given situation and their level of authority. Building partnerships and connections with those who can implement change is critical. It's important to consider different ways to influence those you're targeting, whether through laws, policies, or social norms. Change is a complex process that requires flexibility, continuous feedback, and acceptance of failure. Success is not always a linear path, and failures should be viewed as an opportunity to learn. Professionals should value community knowledge and involvement and establish alliances within the community. With a power and systems approach, real change can happen. The 4 powers of power. Power comes in 3 forms: visible, hidden, and invisible. These forms of power are entrenched in society, and the status quo depends on them. However, by instituting a 4-power model, communities can empower themselves. The 4 powers are power within, power with, power to, and power over. By sharing empowerment through these 4 powers, communities can develop mutual understanding, empathy, and trust. Change in complex systems occurs in slow, steady processes and sudden, unforeseeable jumps. The book explores the concept of power and how it operates in society, dividing it into visible, hidden, and invisible power. The ones that hold visible power, such as politicians, corporate executives, and the military, are usually the ones in charge. Those with hidden power, such as lobbyists, donors, and members of an old boys network, carry out the vision of those in visible power, while those who internalize their situation create invisible power. To overcome these stubborn, stable power structures, the book proposes a 4-power model that includes power within, power with, power to, and power over. This model allows communities to empower themselves by sharing empowerment. The power within communities often spreads to become power with and power to throughout the community. However, it's vital to develop mutual understanding, empathy, and trust instead of just finger-wagging at those in power. Change happens through slow, steady processes and sudden, unforeseeable jumps. This thought-provoking book elucidates how the 4 powers of power can bring significant change, and how communities can use them to overcome entrenched power structures. Power dynamics and driving change. Changing social norms and cultural beliefs is a challenging task. It requires a deep understanding of the power dynamics and economic, social, and political factors that influence them. This summary discusses the various elements involved in leading social movements and implementing positive change in communities. Implementing change is an arduous task, as existing institutions, ideas, and interests often deter it. Such institutions aim to maintain the status quo and work with social norms to halt any attempts to change them. These norms are both fixed and evolving, and they include wars, social, and financial crises that shift attitudes. Family life establishes many social norms, and schools introduce the way these norms apply within society. Governments often go through a 5-step change process: repression, denial, tactical concessions, prescriptive status, and rule-consistent behavior. However, they rarely introduce new norms and instead slowly adapt to ideas from activists. To change cultural beliefs and attitudes in a country, it is crucial to understand 6 dimensions that influence how quickly a culture changes. These dimensions are acceptance of inequality, tolerance of uncertainty and ambiguity, individualism versus collectivism, distribution of emotional roles between genders, long-term versus short-term orientation, and indulgence versus restraint. Power dynamics play a central role in determining both stasis and change, and yet it is absent from the development lexicon. Thus, understanding power structures is necessary to achieve progress effectively. Public figures such as politicians and celebrities can play a leadership role in bringing about change. Female representation in government is one such example, where the Indian government determined that women should hold a third of government positions. A subsequent study found that having female leaders for 2 election cycles enabled girls to postpone marriage, seek more education, and choose a career rather than follow the dictates of their in-laws. Religion also plays a role in facilitating change. Learning about the history of different local institutions, political parties, government, and organizations, allows activists to understand the underlying culture and beliefs in a community better. It also helps in mitigating the hubris that often undermines activists. Understanding power dynamics, recognizing leaders, and nurturing diversity and resilience can contribute to creating an enabling environment that fosters change. Understanding the 3 types of states. States maintain their power by enforcing laws and social norms, providing security, and collecting taxes. However, this power is dependent on a central government, elected officials, and a legal system that is in a constant state of change. Developing countries can fall into 3 categories: developmental, patrimonial, and fragile/conflict-affected states. Developmental states prioritize economic growth and generally have a centralized government while imposing strict social restrictions. Patrimonial states have high levels of corruption with strong political patronage, while conflict-affected states barely function, with citizens living in fear of violence. Hybrid institutions create lasting change. Democracies often rely on compromise, closed systems on research, and aid workers tend to overlook historic traditions. Attempting to impose liberal democratic and free market institutions often ends in failure. Change occurs when hybrid institutions work with local customs and incorporate egalitarian ideals from developed nations. This is exemplified through the incorporation of religious education into the French secular national education systems of Mali, Niger, and Senegal. By discovering change for themselves, communities establish social proof. Customary laws address family arrangements and public services, while formal laws are government dictates. International law is difficult to impose but helps shift norms towards international cooperation. International systems and influencers. The United Nations, World Health Organization, UN High Commission for Refugees, and World Trade Organization demonstrate the vital role of international systems. In addition to diplomats, activists, lobbyists, philanthropists, businesspeople, and academics can also influence programs. Transnational corporations, TNCs, can bring about positive change by addressing consumer concerns but receive criticism for their annual $1 trillion in bribes. 4 factors determine if a corporation will engage in progressive change: brand impact, cost, likelihood of regulation, and competitive gain. Corporate social responsibility is a debated, market-friendly approach to change that activists must incorporate into their strategies. Understanding this complex world is crucial for influencing change. The importance of leaders in activism. Activists often underestimate the role of strong leaders. However, effective leadership is crucial to creating lasting change. Political maturity, strategic decision-making, and seizing opportunities are critical to successful advocacy. The Development Leadership Program identifies education, travel, faith, and shared resistance experiences as key factors in developing leaders. Top-down leaders tend to work within existing systems, while bottom-up leaders rely on clear communication. Unfortunately, activists and agencies often fail to invest in leadership development, hindering progress. To make a real impact, activists must recognize and nurture strong leaders. PSA Theory of Change. The PSA Theory of Change merges both evaluation and social change fields. Practical activists acknowledge that projecting the way change happens can be challenging, as it is not possible to guarantee intended impact via proposed means. The three obstacles slowing down change within the activist sector are the attraction of a top-down approach, toolkit temptation, and easy evidence. The PSA embraces accurate evaluations of change efforts, accepts lessons learned, and failures to bring about more significant change if agencies consider change being generated within communities. Accountability is crucial because it bonds the social contract between citizens and the state, and between communities and those willing to aid change. The offered toolkit provides a clear way with an initial approach that provides questions and specific standards for confirming success.
In conclusion, How Change Happens offers valuable insights into grassroots-oriented activism and the essential role of various power structures, leaders, and community dynamics. Emphasizing the need to contextualize efforts within community needs and local knowledge, the power and systems approach promotes flexibility, resilience, and adaptability in implementing change strategies. Understand the interplay of multiple actions, power models, and societal factors, as well as the significance of unexpected outcomes. With persistent evaluation and reflection, activists and changemakers can strengthen their ability to bring about positive transformation in their communities.